Warmest of welcomes to all of you at home to the Mattioli Woods, Welford Road for the 139th encounter between Oxford University and Cambridge University men. It is the Varsity Match, a fixture which has led a nomadic life, originally played at the Parks when it first was thrown down between these great two educational institutions in 1872. It's been around, Blackheath, Queen's Club, even the Oval. But it was in 1921, that it found its permanent home at Twickenham. Ever since then, it has been held in London. That is until today. COVID has thrown curveballs, it's created complications, but it's found the Varsity a new temporary home in Leicester. New grass, old rivalry, same passion. The women's varsity has just taken place, and it is Cambridge who prevailed. A 10-5 victory, tooth and nail, with a player of the match performance from Anna Park. Two key kicks from her, sealing the victory for the light blue. Their male counterparts will look to follow suit today and replicate the victory that they secured in 2019. The last time these two met, a 15-0 victory. Here's your Oxford team today, and well, looking at the back line is the Humberstone family, who are going to be charged with getting the creative rugby juices flowing. Drew and Tom with two blues to his name, will be making sure that his older brother has a comfortable debut. They'll be bookended by Callum Grant and Nick Greenall. At 13 and 9, who'll know each other well from Richmond. But first, we have the national anthems. The national anthem sung, and both teams now will observe a moment in acknowledgement that there is no place for discrimination in sport or in society before referee Andrew Jackson will get us underway for the 139th encounter. Cambridge lead the head-to-head 64-60, 14 draws all told, the last coming in 2003. A winning draw, as it would be phrased if you're of a Cambridge persuasion. But both sides looking to take glory with a win today. There's the Cambridge team taking the field, the back row. Mouth-watering. Hugo Lloyd-Williams, an unbelievable story to see him starting this varsity match in unison with captain Stevie Leonard and Demi Obumbembe. So Stevie Leonard returning to captain Oxford for the first time in 37 years, a captain back-to-back in successive varsity matches. The last man to do so was Mark Bailey. In 83-84, he delivered victories on both occasions. Can Leonard do the same? We're underway, and I'm joined by Stasha.
Thank you. Great to be here. Great to watch such a fantastic women's game first before this. As you say, Cambridge taking the lead with the victory in the women's game. Let's see what the men can do.
Well, Stasha, we're not going to task you too much, because we know that you've had a busy afternoon already calling that women's match. And we're straight into the action with the first set piece of the afternoon. Cambridge hitting their darts. Benjamin Kaiser the man charge with masterminding Oxford's forward defence in terms of set piece. As Cambridge go on the burst early down the left flank, they freed it up to the try-scoring sensation, Gators. Try time in Tigerland, and it's first blood to the Light Blues. Wow, Oxford caught napping down the left flank. It was beautiful interplay that freed up the mammoth full-back. He's like a thoroughbred racehorse. If you can jump on YouTube and see some of Joey Gates's highlights reel, well, he's got a light blue try to add to that. A try within the first minute, and Cambridge on the march.
Yeah, it all came from really quick ball there on that second phase. Just fantastic through the hands. And really great to see that last offload in the tackle from Chibal. Without that, that last pass just wouldn't have gone to hand, and that's what inevitably ripped the Oxford defence apart. Cambridge with a really sharp start to this game.
Well, speaking of sharp starts, Etienne Dusacre, with all his professional experience from the French top 14, nails a touchline conversion to maximise Gates's opening try. Oxford rocked in the opening minutes, Cambridge leading 7 points to 0, and barely with a moment to settle. A bit of a straggly kickoff puts Cambridge under pressure. Stevie Leonard with not much room. Back to the on-rushing dark blues of Oxford. From what wasn't exactly a pure strike, the pressure from Piers von Dadelsen giving Oxford a premium platform to launch their first attack of the match. Well, interestingly, John Aaron Henry throwing the darts. Remember, no scrums in this adapted format of the game. 40 minutes each way, a free kick for scrum infringements. Oxford one-on-one on the left. Good footwork, good strength, inside ball, but Dan Stoller denied by a tiptoe in touch from Rob Quinlan, the former Edinburgh University player, just showing us a glimpse of his power down the left flank.
Yeah, and almost a replica of Cambridge at the other end. Really good handling, keeping the ball alive in contact. Just really unlucky to have that last foot in touch before what was a fabulous offload out of that tackle.
Well, Simon McConnell right on the spots to call it. One of our assistant referees today, partnering Andrew Jackson in the middle. All debutants with whistles and flags to accompany the 15 winning their first blue for Cambridge today. Speaking with Scott Annett this morning, he spoke of an enthusiastic and exuberant team that he's assembled. And that energy has forced the clumsy gather from Quinlan. And the line out to Cambridge up on the halfway line.
Yeah, not sure if he was aware that that got touched as it got kicked, so he was always under pressure to keep that in the field of play. Otherwise, that was always going to be a Cambridge ball, and he's done really well to get them up to the halfway line.
Well, Jamie Chowdhury throwing in from hooker. I mentioned before, no scrums, but there is a gentleman's agreement that exists between these two universities that front row forwards would be selected in the 1, 2 and 3 jerseys. Obviously, the natural inclination would be to put 3 back rowers in there, but gentlemanly conduct in a fixture fierce on rivalry, but high in respect and high in attacking ambition, as we see Drew Humberstone carry for the first time, the 31-year-old in his first varsity match. Duratalo runs the dummy line. Oxford putting some patterns together. Grant goes to the toe to test the try scorer, who's just as secure under the high ball as he is with the line begging. And Cambridge with a chance to relieve the pressure from their 22. Another streaky kick, though, from Gaitus. Gives Oxford an opportunity to counter. They cross the halfway threshold. Oxford demand it. John Aaron Henry carrying and taking the penalty, not rolling away. First breakdown infringement of the match. Stasha, your reflections on this first 6.5 minutes?
Well, it's been frenetic, it's been end-to-end, it's been fantastic. Both teams showing the attacking intent that they're going to play with today, and the skill set's looking sharp, if I'm honest.
Well, Tom Humberstone finds a meaty touch and takes Oxford into light blue territory. Humberstone in his 3rd varsity appearance backed himself a try and 20 points in the 2018 win at Twickenham. They'll be looking to add another victory as Duratalo shows, goes, but confusion with Sam Miller leads to crossing and a let-off for Cambridge. Mention the experience of Etienne Dusatra playing fly half for Cambridge today. It's not the first time he's worn light blue and white hoops. 28 top 14 appearances, splits between Racing 92 of Paris and Grenoble. The lion's share being for Racing. European experience in there as well, and really a lot of expectation on him to marshal the 9 debutantes in the starting 15 for Cambridge around Welford Road this afternoon. The line out is good with Bischoff climbing highest. First aerial test for Oxford. It's messy, but Sam.
Use that then, Oxford.
But Louis Jackson clears up the mess. Oxford finding yards difficult to come by. Callum Grant snipes. Duratalo again bumps into his own player. Accidental offside. The first was a penalty. This one's a free kick. And the USA Eagle struggling to find his rhythm early.
Yeah, man.
Charles Favell, the mop head 9. In at the breakdown, playing with penalty advantage. Here come Cambridge. They sling it wide to Sam Isaac. Our first look at the winger into Gaitus, who's scragged well.
Advantage. New one. Hands pass.
By Duratalo.
Can have it there or back there.
But another penalty. They're mounting up for Oxford early in these exchanges.
You can have one here.
Discipline driving them back deeper into their half.
Happy here, yeah. Hands passed.
Just really interesting to see how the teams adapt to the law variations and how that affects set piece. Obviously not able to set up a maul from this line out. So really seeing either players taking it in as they receive it, which they're allowed to do, or playing it straight off the top. And for me, it just brings a much more expansive game. And I think that's going to be really exciting for us today.
Well, it's an expansive game that is suiting Cambridge at the moment. I mentioned Gemfrey, I've mentioned Gaitus, but just getting a glimpse of Isaacs, the 3rd member of that attacking triumvirate in the back 3. But Cambridge fluff their line out lines, and Oxford will go. Both teams happy to play with the ball in hand at the moment. Little going on the boot, but when it does, it's to open up an attacking opportunity. Gaitus under pressure from the unrushing Greenall. forces the fumble. And some nice invention from Oxford.
Yeah, I think they have been the more inventive this first half so far. I think they're just challenging different areas of the Cambridge game just to see where they get the most success from. And certainly those little kicks through, I think they're maybe telling a few more lies on the pitch than Cambridge. And I think that's great because it just keeps Cambridge guessing and they don't know what's coming next.
Wow. It's a veritable feast of attacking implements that Oxford are trying to deploy. We see the bomb go up, the old school Gary Owen from the free kick.
No, fine, play.
Potentially something we'll see more and more. The free kick really bringing in an element of the unknown, despite both sides playing under these adapted laws in their fractured run-up to the biggest game of many of these boys' lives.
Use that then, Cambridge. Don't count.
Favell boxes a little long and it opens things up on the left. Leonard.
He's got straight into the boards there, lads. We're going to have a Cambridge scrum when we restart. Well, free kick.
First to drop onto the loose ball, but play unusually stopped for the Oxford player going into the advertising hoardings. And it presents a brief pause for a drink and a moment to reflect on an opening 12 minutes where both sides are looking to play.
Yeah, there's not much between them at this stage. I would say they're both playing with the same amount of attacking intent, but also looking equally as dominant and sharp in defence. I think Cambridge are adopting the real kind of double tackles more. But yeah, they've looked really sharp, and I think we're going to see lots of running rugby today.
Well, if you're just tuning in and are confused by the vista in front of you, it is because we're at the Mattioli Woods, Welford Road, the first time in 100 years that this fixture hasn't been hosted at Twickenham Stadium.
Yeah, we only stopped because he's...
Of course, Leicester Tigers with a pretty rich association with the Varsity Match. 77 Blues, no less, split pretty evenly between Cambridge and Oxford. We haven't had one
someone with a neck injury gets run over
for the Tigers since 2008, but a host of great names in there. Probably Tony Underwood being the one that sticks out in the memory for many in the 90s. But the Tigers have got their paws on this one.
Number 4 here.
In a dark blue capacity, Benjamin Kaiser, if we get an opportunity to glance at the dugouts, has been helping Oxford University in their preparation. James Wade, the head honcho, but he's been inviting a number of celebrity coaches in to assist him with preparation for this one. Byron McGuigan of Sale. Guy just couldn't stop scoring at the end of the season. Sprinkling some of his stardust on Quinlan, on Jackson, on Stoller. But it's Kaiser, the former Tiger, the French scrummaging legend, not able to impart any of the wisdom of the dark arts with the format that we've been given today, but certainly a winner's mentality. Well, Favell is finding himself under pressure when he attempts to box in. The captain, George Mesham, gobbles it up and puts Oxford on the front foot. Humberstone finds Duratalo. Big runners in the middle, but there's space on the left. Oxford piercing the light blue defence, finding those gaps. Grant to Messam. The replacement, Henry Hackett, is on the field now. Humberstone out to Stoller. Big shot.
Advantage. Everyone was within the 10 from the kick that went straight up.
Stop Stoller in his tracks, and while Oxford have had a lot of the possession, they are finding penetration difficult.
Quickly go. Your tea carrier decided for you.
Yeah, really interesting to see what Oxford do here. I think they're going to look to try and put points on the board. I think they'll want to get some reward for the amount of time that they've spent down here. I really like the variation that they're using in their attack. Cambridge defence is looking solid, but I really like the variation they're using. And I think that will come to fruition for them.
So, Tom Humberstone, an aforementioned haul of 20 points in 2018. No points for him, no points for Oxford in 2019. But up and away, and the scoreboard ticking at Welford Road. Oxford are on the board. They trail Cambridge by 4. But crucially, from a strong period of pressure, they've come away with points.
Yeah, it was a mistake on the box kick from Favell, and a costly one at that. I would say, especially when they start that caterpillar, it's so obvious to the defending team and the receiving team what's coming next. I think the poor execution just allowed Oxford to really capitalise on that.
Yes. The caterpillar first spotted in Devon, and now seems to have crawled its way all the way to the Midlands and beyond. A blight on the game for many, but an alarm bell for the Oxford charge down brigade when it comes to Favell shaping to box. He's had some pretty good tutors in his time, being an under-18 at Saracens, the likes of Richard Wrigglesworth, who, of course, a Tiger last season, Ben Spencer. But he's finding the going tough so far this afternoon. De Sartre sends it high, but Stoller a match to the altitude. Oxford targeting Gatiss again. They won't want to invite him to run too hard, because that's what he can do in broken play. A bit of a backdoor boogie.
Carry back.
Doesn't go to hand, and Oxford clear the decks, but Joey Gatiss, give that man an inch and he'll take half the field.
Out the 10, out the 10.
De Sartre puts one to compete. Stoller losing his footing to the delight of the light blue crowd here at Welford Road.
Thanks, Evan, well done.
No team really wanting to keep possession for too long here, Stash.
No.
And a turnover from Mbembe. The little known but much heralded Demi Mbembe. Former Irish Academy, an absolute wrecking ball, according to those in the know at Cambridge.
There's some tired bodies already, I think. Although they've had lots of preparation time together as squads, chatting to both teams, saying that they've had sort of 10 to 11 weeks where they've been together, training 3 times a week. In some weeks, the lack of match play potentially going to take its toll on this faster paced game with less stoppages, and it certainly seems like both teams are just sounding out the other team, seeing what they've got in the locker, and at the moment neither really showing what they're fully capable of yet.
Well, you mentioned that they've spent a long time together. They're not that match hardened, though. If we talk about that battle craft that you learn from being in the trenches together,
all good, yeah?
Neither team has played more than 5 games. Oxford with fixtures against Hartbury College, Maidenhead, an internal match against their own Greyhounds, and then an invitational team which they put together, whilst Cambridge, Esher, Bishop Stortford, a couple of losses to start things off, but as Scott Annett said to me, the penny dropped against North Walsham, who they played twice and they've been building, but still, with only 4 games under your belt, you're not going to know your teammates in a telepathic manner.
No, and I think they've got 2 things to contend with. Not only have they got new teammates, but they've also got a new game to play with the variations. And for some players, that's the set piece was their game. And I think it's really difficult to come into a game now where tactically you're doing things very differently because the outcomes of certain decisions are very different.
6, yeah, thanks, 6.
Well, the speed of the game is something to be marvelled at, one that we love spectating, maybe not one that you love if you're a set of lungs inside one of these 30 men.
Oh, so Cambridge, get on your mark.
Bodies on the field at the moment.
That's what's bringing them up. On your mark, Cambridge. Thanks. In you come, Oxford. Yeah. Oh, good steal.
And again, scrappy set-piece ball, line out.
2 knocks on.
The only set-piece battleground, a knock-on from a dark blue hand before Cambridge then knock it on in return. Free kick to Cambridge.
Bit more. Thanks, lads.
Remember, not allowed to go quickly from these free kicks. It's purely to restart the match. It's not advantageous, but it does set up big old carries like that from the second rows. Here comes the Caterpillar. And this time, Favell gets it away cleanly.
This time, Lem's in front.
But Fergus Gemfrey, too eager to chase after. Oxford can go quickly on that infringement. And Grant feeds his forwards. Duratalo with the grunt work. Grant sniping, darting. The wily former Richmond player has given Oxford the impetus here. It's carried forward by Ewan Friend.
Get your hands up. Advantage offside.
Advantage to Oxford. The Cambridge defence evenly spreads.
Get your hands up.
Width to width.
Yes.
So Oxford go direct, they go narrow, they go within inches. They go again.
Still advantage.
Key tackle from Sui Chabali, the South African. But it was advantage being played. And despite the calls of go, go, go,
don't pre-bind.
Duratalo with his 22 Eagles caps employs some experience before tapping and going himself. He's a big man, but he's felled well. 3 metres shy. Oxford searching for their first try. Penalty advantage again. Oxford so close, wriggling.
And then propelled, we go back to no arms by 3.
A double movement brings the penalty back. Repeated red zone infringements. Stash could yield a yellow soon, but Duratalo over the ball, goes again. Cambridge throw 2 men to take down the Eagle. Strong defence from the light blues again. Oxford keep coming. Grant will go wide. Humberstone, big over the top to Henry Hackett. And Oxford have their first try of the 2021 Varsity. And De Sartre does not like it.
Yeah, fantastic from Oxford there. I know we're seeing some afters here. It's going to get a bit tasty between these two sides, but really good play from Oxford. They were just going route one, sucking in those Cambridge defenders until eventually they saw the space out wide. Cambridge were just outnumbered, and a really lovely finishing pass there for Hackett to go over in the corner. Good finish from him, diving early to avoid getting tackled into touch. Good finish from the young man.
So I've got 10 running in as well, so we'll have a chat with both those. So yeah, skip.
Well, here we have it. Hackett sliding in.
Cambridge captain.
A bit of a celeb from Oxford, and really Not sure that Etienne Dusatra had any right to get involved in that celebration.
Not really sure what his issue was.
Je ne sais quoi, Stash. Well, as a result of his intervention, it will be a penalty restart for Oxford after Humberstone's kick. He struck it sweet for the penalty to get Oxford on the board. But this one is far more testing, hugging the touchline. And not just the touchline, but under the watchful, not necessarily supportive eye of the Cambridge women's team. Humberstone slides it short and to the right of the uprights, but it matters not because Oxford have taken the lead. Henry Hackett, his try, opening Oxford's 5-pointer counts, and it is Oxford leading 8 points to 7 halfway through the first half. We've got a bit of a game on our hands, Stash. It has that feeling in the ground. It has that feeling just from our vantage point in the stand that this might cut loose soon.
Definitely. I've really liked what I've seen from Oxford so far, just in terms of their variation of play that they're using, but also the way that they're keeping Cambridge guessing in terms of what's coming next. They seem to have options all the time, whether those are different running lines, whether that's deciding to stay narrow and then going wide, or whether that's the variation in kicking that they're using. But they certainly seem to have a lot in their toolbox that they're going to be using today, and Cambridge are going to have their wits about them to make sure that they're always alert to the next threat that's coming down that channel.
Cambridge immediately back under pressure. Oxford finding a touch just outside the 22, and well, the line out isn't a sure thing at the moment for the Dark Blues. They miss their man, it pinballs around, and Cambridge come away with a free kick and a let-off.
Yeah, when you're ready. It's just a free kick, yeah.
Andrew Jackson paid a visit to Welford Road with his referee's whistle for Tigers' match against Worcester earlier in the season.
Let's go then, Nan.
And pursing his lips, as I said, for the first time in the Varsity match this afternoon. Oxford back in possession. Friends, the big man from Columpton, carries forward. Humberstone, Duratalo, clearly a linchpin, either running or distracting. Humberstone spies some green grass behind Gatiss, but too quick, too wily. Calls for the mark.
Yeah, 10's good.
Takes some sting out of the attack.
Yeah, it was a good option, just really well covered there by Gatiss. He's done well. He's been challenged a couple of times, but his positioning's been good, and he looks solid under that high ball.
Henry.
5.
On his 4th consecutive varsity match. Some career for the Dark Blue. 1-1, lost 2. Looking to even out the ledger today. And he helps by finding his man, Drew Humberstone. Direct through the middle before Friend pops up with another carry, working hard in the loose. Duratalo picked up and put down. Friend again, industrious in the loose. Miller.
Good, 8, thank you.
Humberstone. Just a tantalising ball under the noses of the Cambridge defence, finding an Oxford hand. Plenty of numbers filling the back line for Cambridge. Henry offloads at pace, but spilt forward by Greenall.
Manage over from the knock-on.
Here come Cambridge. They haven't had the ball to attack for a while. Hint of the ball
Free kick option.
drifting forward before Isaacs confirms it with a knock-on.
Yeah, just a scrummer. Well, free kick, so it's over.
Free kick restart to Oxford.
Yeah, good intent from Cambridge up this blind side. Just drifted forward on that last pass. Just needed to hold his depth a little bit longer so he could take that ball at pace. And he had lots of empty space and lots of green grass in front of him to run at. Cambridge will be disappointed with that, I think.
A definite opportunity for the light blue, who've been manacled in their own half, really, since Joey Gatiss crashed over in the first minute for a spectacular start to the match. He was provider in 2019 for Fergus Gemfrey's opener at Twickenham, but this time doing it all himself. He has looked some player with ball in hand, countering at pace. They'll want to get the ball into his hands a bit more frequently, but they'll want to get the ball into their hands with more consistency. As Duratalo again carries hard in the middle. Hint of a forward pass, mopped up by Stevie Leonard.
Come off the ball, you're part of the tackle.
But didn't release the tackler properly. Another man in his fourth consecutive varsity. You know, you can talk about Stevie Leonard's carries, his footwork, but he does it in the breakdown as well. Very unlucky there.
It's impossible to ignore the amount of pressure that Cambridge have had to absorb by defending for so much of this first half. They've been putting some fantastic hits in on the Oxford runners, who've been running with pace and power. And there'll be some tired bodies from Cambridge already just because of the sheer amount of time that they've been having to defend for.
Well, Drew Humberstone pulls brotherly rank on his brother and kicks for the poles on this occasion, ricocheting off the upright, creating a bit of pandemonium and an opportunity for Cambridge to counter, but Oxford come away with possession. The free kick. Great strike. Just clattering off that right upright. And now Oxford go. Duratalo, wouldn't you know it, carrying hard off the first phase. A mistimed charge from Humberstone calls Jasper Dix into action. Rangy, mobile second row Jasper Dix. Spent a bit of time playing in Australia. Played in the Premiership Sevens for Saints. A lot of players with a lot of pedigree out here this afternoon. But all with the same designs. Varsity victory. And Cambridge have turned it over. First to react to a loose ball. Wow. An extra long caterpillar on this occasion from Cambridge for Vel. All the length in the world to send this one high. Humberstone drops it on the toe. The try scorer, Hackett in pursuit. Gator scurrying across, but the touchline beats them both. And a bit of a fractured period of play that we're enjoying at the moment, Stash. No team really in the ascendancy. Oxford, yes, territorially, yes, in terms of possession, but Cambridge managing them pretty well in defence. But the problem is when Cambridge turn them over, They don't seem to be able to do anything with it at the moment.
No, they just seem a little bit indecisive when they do get that ball. It seems like the natural go-to is obviously to kick it, but they just then hand possession straight back to Oxford. I'd like to see them just come up with a bit more variety of what they can do with ball in hand and challenge that Oxford defence.
Whoa, huge collision in the midfield. A double team from Miller and Duratalo.
Use that. Take a step. One. Let's go, come on. Touch.
Favel, his box kick touched again. Hackett does very, very well, stooping low and sliding. Hugo Lloyd-Williams is still feeling the pain from being split in two by his opposition back row.
Right, he's got it.
He's tough as teak, though, is Lloyd-Williams. A rugby league man drafted in really meteorically into this light blue varsity squad.
Just a fraction.
And with the rush defence from Oxford, Sui Jabali goes for the miracle ball out the back, straight into touch, and again, Oxford in possession.
Yeah, it was one of those offloads that if it had gone to hand and they'd scored from it, it would have been the best offload that we'd seen in a long time. But it's so risky, and Oxford's defence just coming up really hard, putting him under loads of pressure. I liked his intent, however.
Well, really left with little option because of the ferocity of that defensive rush from Oxford.
I think they feel they're in the ascendancy at the moment.
Well, that one's going to come down with snow, and Oxford come away with it. Grant loses his footing. He's been good for Oxford today. Very much the beating half of this first half hour. The Cambridge women's team attempt to rouse their boys with songs from the stand, just less than 10 metres from us in our commentary position. Someone's lost the boot. Grant to Duratalo, dragged down by Bischoff. Humberstone to his brother, pace into the line for Oxford.
No, not around the side. Yeah, you're fine.
Excellent counter-rucking from the hoop jerseys of Cambridge. But a penalty.
Both fine. 10. Do that again, I'll reverse it, okay? What?
Sorry, you have to stop doing it.
Yeah, exactly what I've just said.
Please, because that's what you did before with me. It's annoying.
Cambridge definitely picking their moments when to go in and get those turnovers, and they've been so clinical with them. It's just such a shame that the next phase or the next decision or the next passage of play just seems to go against them. Whether that's they're just not expecting the ball or a little bit of indecision or indecisiveness around it, just seems to keep handing the ball back to Oxford.
Well, it was really, really good work from Sam Miller. It's one of those, it was pure, wasn't it? Just latched on like a barnacle on a boat and just couldn't be forced off the ball. And it gives Tom Humberstone on this occasion a chance to add 3 points
Ready for 2, please, mate, just in case they can't get that stopped.
to his personal tally and extend Oxford's lead to 4. Well, having momentarily tossed the tee to his brother Drew, Tom retakes control of the kicking duties and duly splits the poles. Oxford 11, Cambridge 7. Less than 10 minutes remaining of a really quite enthralling first half, Stash.
Yeah, I mean, we can't say we've been short of action. It's definitely given us lots to watch and lots to look at. And I think when Cambridge put some passage of play together, I still think they're going to be really dangerous in attack. Dusatra
Goes long, an awkward take
Out of there, 12.
for Oxford on the far touchline. They do very well to stay in play. The turnover man, Sam Miller.
Use that.
Shows he can carry 2. Humberstone. Oxford looking to play. That was definitely forward. Hasn't been called.
Use that now.
The Cambridge bench understandably not happy, but play continues.
Get the tacklers out of the way. No chance for the clearers to come through.
And to compound that sense of having been wronged, Oxford get another penalty, another opportunity to take themselves into the Cambridge half.
Yeah, Oxford still looking dangerous wherever they are at that last passage of play, even though I think there was a hint of a forward pass. They had numbers out wide, and had that blitz defence not come up from Cambridge, Oxford were on again in that 15-metre channel and had numbers over.
Well, you've gone with a hint of forward pass, Stash. I would, well, without having seen a replay, maybe I wouldn't put my house on it, but it looks like Oxford got away with one. They try the back this time. Piers von Dadelsen unable to keep a hold of that one. The Canadian age group player should have been vying for a place at the Under-20 World Championships for Canada in Spain last summer, but COVID put paid to that.
No, not you.
See the Canadian national team over on UK shores at the moment. Their match against Wales was a long afternoon at the office. England awaiting next. Hackett showing great strength, great dexterity, and Duratalo, you can remark on his carrying and his robustness, but it's also, he's always there at the right time. Huge work rate from the Eagle.
No advantage. If you go back, 5 was in front of the kick, always advancing. Number 5 is always advancing in front of the kick.
And Cambridge, dare I say it, need to address their discipline, Stash.
Yeah, they really do. I think they're running the risk of somebody going to the bin soon, because it's just continual penalty after penalty. And I think all it's doing as well is just fueling Oxford's confidence and their willingness to just have a go all the time. And as I mentioned earlier and alluded to, it'll be energy sapping for those Cambridge boys, because although those hits are coming in thick and fast and they're really resolute in their defence, it will be energy sapping for them.
With the absence of the driving maul as a weapon, we see Oxford go to the training ground with a cute play, and they've unlocked the Cambridge defence with a bit of guile. It's been coming. They couldn't quite figure out how to do it, but finally a short ball to the front, a 1-2, and Oxford have their second try of the match and stretch their lead heading into the half-time.
I think they must have been reading our minds. I was just thinking how scrappy the lineouts have been up until this point in the game, and wondering who was going to be the first to come up with something different and beat the game and solve that problem. And sure enough, that's what they did. A really simple move, but one that's very effective.
Well, John Aaron Henry playing prop, throwing in at hooker, his 4th consecutive varsity, and a try in 2021.
It'll also be just what they want before going in for the break. They'll feel that they've developed a really comfortable lead now. And for all intents and purposes so far, they've been in the ascendancy this first half. They've had the lion's share of possession, and I'd say that they've put enough pressure on Cambridge when Cambridge have had the ball in order to get them to question their decision-making and have to come up with something different, and that's been very telling.
Well, by the grace of the Humberstone boots, Cambridge are still well within this. 9 points the deficit. We've had 10 points left out there from the tee so far in the first half.
Yeah, gone 10. Back by blue, play on.
Something that could well come into play because, well, we know how these varsity matches go, and if this season's Premiership Rugby has taught us anything, no comeback is insurmountable in this day and age with the way that we are beginning to play the game of rugby. Grant employs pragmatism, though, and puts Gatiss under pressure. A sensational take from Louis Jackson. Can Oxford get a third before the break? Duratalo again.
Straight in on the ball.
But this time, after a big hit and dump, Cambridge get on the ball. It's the outside centre, Sui Chabali, getting the head pats. And you could argue that that's going to be crucial. It's damage control from Cambridge until the half-time break. It's knocking on the door. Our clock not necessarily 100% in step with that of the stadium clock. Pretty close, though.
Yeah, it was a fantastic kick and just the most phenomenal take. A really difficult skill to take that ball on the run at sort of not far off full speed, to take that over your shoulder.
Well, Cambridge fluffed their lines at the line out. Humberstone belts it into touch, and that is half-time in a game that is something of a romp. Cambridge University started us off with a bang, courtesy of big Joey Gatiss crashing over in the left-hand corner. But since then, it has been all Oxford. A penalty from Tom Humberstone was followed by a try from Hackett, an extra penalty, and then a line-out move straight from the training ground from John Aaron Henry means that Oxford lead the varsity match 16 points to 7. And this is what we haven't seen enough of from Cambridge. It is this attacking potency with big Joey Gatiss careering over.
They showed that when they keep that ball away from contact, they can be really dangerous and really menacing. They just had options on the ball when this happened. The runner always had a short runner, somebody deep, somebody wide. And that seemed to really assist them in scoring this try, which almost caught Oxford napping at the start. They just haven't had enough possession since then to be able to show that.
When you score that early and that emphatically, does it almost deliver a false dawn to you so early in the match? You know, you're running high, the adrenaline's pumping even harder after a try like that, and you almost, you know, forget you're at the start of the match, because Oxford came back and they've been relentless ever since.
They have. I think you're definitely vulnerable soon after you've scored, but I think it was just a really well-worked try from Oxford. Take nothing away from Cambridge's defence, because this scoreline could have easily been a lot higher to Oxford had that defence not worked as well as it has. But I just think that Cambridge haven't had the possession that they would want. They've not had the ability to really kind of settle and get into this game. Some of those nerves that might have been there before have probably just been exacerbated by some mistakes, certainly at the line out, and also handling when they've had that turnover ball. They've worked really hard to get those turnovers, and then they've just not really capitalised on that possession.
The final try of the half there from John Aaron Henry. We look here, you spoke about the physical fatigue of defending all those sets from Cambridge, but just there, are we seeing a mental fatigue from them as well? Just turning off and allowing themselves to be unpicked by a move maybe they should have been wise to.
Yeah, I talked earlier in the game, and I saw the little raised eyebrows from you about telling more lies on the pitch, and it's something that for aspiring players out there, I think is brilliant. You've almost got to imagine that when you're playing, you're giving a picture to the opposition, and you're asking them to defend against what that picture looks like. And if that picture's got no clues in it, and it's got loads of options, and they can't really guess what's going to come next, it makes it really difficult for those players to make those decisions. And I think there was an element that Cambridge had switched off. Unfortunately, they'd switched off in a really crucial area of the pitch, and Oxford just came up with a very simple but very effective move. And that comes from just understanding that doing the same thing and it not working is not going to get you a different outcome. And their lineouts hadn't been working very well up until that point. They tried the short ball to the front, they tried the long ball over the top, none of which was really working. So do something simple, and it really worked.
A dominant first half by Oxford University, but they only lead by 9. There is plenty to play for in the second half that is coming up in just under 10 minutes. Well, welcome back. And George Messam leads out the side in the lead. George Messam looking to be the first Oxford man since Don Waldock in 2018 to hoist the Varsity Match trophy. And they made a good start. It's half a good job done for the Dark Blues. But as I said, if this season has taught us anything, it ain't over till it's over. The season of Premiership comebacks, Cambridge with 9 to overcome, but 40 minutes in which to do so and imprint their mark on this, the 139th Varsity Match. Stash, we've seen glimpses of what Cambridge can do with the ball in hand, and we talk about it being such a big game, such a monumental game and unique game in the sense that all other games when you wear these jerseys mean nothing. It is all about this one climax to the season, the Varsity Match. And Cambridge, for their youthful exuberance, Stevie Leonard, with 3 blues to his name, has more than the rest of the pack put together.
That's an unreal stat. I hope that in the changing rooms, Cambridge have talked around just getting some possession, some time on the ball, and I think we'll see more of what they did in that first minute of the game. Keep that ball away from contact, look after possession, and we'll have a game on our hands.
Well, Tom Humberstone will get us underway. We're not aware of any changes at half-time. We'll keep our eyes peeled on the numbers, as Cambridge do well to keep their eye on that hanging kickoff. The big hit coming in from Henry Hackett, who's really impressed since coming on for Rob Quinlan, who was injured hurtling into the advertising hoardings, as we see a swaying Oxford player looking like he's played his last minute of the Varsity Match. Concern an expert attention in equal measure. This will definitely be a replacement.
So I stopped it because
Yeah,
he banged his head very hard on the floor and then immediately disorientated when he tried to stand up. So anything other than immediate removal, I'd be very surprised by. Yeah. Thank you.
Referee just reiterating there, what we were expecting is that he should be removed from the field of play.
Wow.
No, you've got to tap past.
Yeah, just
it would have been
caught a Cambridge player's shoulder in his temple there.
You can tap to yourself. No, but you
well,
can tap.
Will Barker that is, and it's actually a remarkable story. He was partially blinded in 2018 and managed to regain his sight in time for the 2019 under-20 varsity, making his full blue bow today. And he's put himself about, but will leave the field, not of his own accord, but safety first. And he can be happy with a first half shift that has put his university into the box seats to reclaim their trophy, as Bertie Watson, wearing 20, takes the field. It's a slow, ambling walk for Will Barker. And you mentioned, oh, here we go, Oxford transition ball. Bertie Watson straight into the fray.
That's advantage over from the knock-on.
Oxford go to Duratale, tip on to Miller.
Stay down.
Oxford smell blood. Messam the captain. Grant keeps things ticking. Humberstone out the back to the replacement, Marriott Clark, who snuck on before Jackson carries forward. Watson again. Friend. Oxford building. Oxford carrying through. Dix. They're looking menacing A dark blue tidal wave beginning to flood over the light blue jerseys of Cambridge. Duratalo
Use that, Oxford.
gives them a bit more muscle going forward, and it's Watson
Tackle!
who's been everything in his first 60 seconds on the field. Try scorer Henry. Duratalo gets in Humberstone's way, but he finds a gap. Clark to Humberstone. Mighty defence from the light blues. God, have they faced a stern defensive examination this afternoon. Duratalo just finds a soft fringe.
You're too long.
Friend picks, goes, pirouettes. 4 metres. That's how far Oxford have to go. 1 metre. Is this the try to take Oxford away from Cambridge even further? A double movement from Duratalo. Cambridge withstand. Epic defence from the light blues on a huge moment in the game.
Yeah, another really heroic defensive effort from Cambridge there. I felt like Oxford just went away from their game plan slightly, in that they just seemed to try that little bit too hard at the end. They had numbers out wide, and I think it would have been the easier option for them, but certainly they look really comfortable on the ball. Their handling looks sharp. A little bit Exeter-esque in terms of their kind of close range play around the fringes.
We haven't seen too many short-range Scud missiles coming in from the forwards, but concerted, consistent driving there, not paying off ultimately. I mentioned Oscar Marriott Clark on to earn his first blue, having played in the under-20s in 2020. He'll know Welford Road pretty well as a former Tigers Academy product. And once again,
it's in the line out on the 15.
Cambridge just unable to keep a hold of the ball and ceding possession to Oxford over and over again. Humberstone to Duratalo. How many times have we said that? It's the 4th of July and the USA International is bringing the fireworks.
Yeah, mate.
Messam. How long can Cambridge withstand this relentless assault from Oxford? Grant, Humberstone, back to his brother Drew.
That's fine, we go back.
Turnover again, good from Chabali, but so often when he's come in with a big play.
Blocking the pass, which is pretty close to a yellow anyway, but think back to the first half, we got down to that phase, series of penalties. Don't know if the same here will lose.
It's been penalty advantage. Stevie Leonard given a warning.
Yeah, this is exactly where Cambridge don't want to be, and playing into the game plan of Oxford, who will have been talking at half-time and just saying, let's camp ourselves in that Cambridge half, and it takes the pressure off them. It makes Cambridge have to play out, which is a really difficult place to be when you're already behind on the scoreboard.
Well, it was Demi Abembe, I beg your pardon, with the legal turnover, but we touched on it lightly in the first half that the discipline really has hamstrung Cambridge's attempts to relieve pressure at any time.
And it's difficult because at this stage of the game, although there's still the majority of the second half to play, there'll be an element where Cambridge will be desperate to get the ball back. They'll be desperate to try and get some possession. And sometimes those emotions can cause you to maybe be a little bit irrational with some of your decisions. And what they need now is to just pull together as a team and be super disciplined around decision making and not just handing the ball back to Oxford to make it easy for them.
Well, Tom Humberstone gleefully accepts the opportunity to add another 3 points. It's Oxford 19, Cambridge 7. Dusatra Sends it long into the hands of Jackson,
Use that.
who tasted varsity victory on his debut in 2018.
Go on it. Go on the pen. Yeah.
And as it stands, is looking like he could be adding a second W to his CV as Oxford play beautifully down the left wing. The no-look pass, bringing Watson on the wraparound. But desperate scramble defence from Cambridge.
And it all started from this original moment here when Nine's got the ball and he's got so many options outside him. Cambridge don't know whether to blitz, they don't know whether to drift because that ball might go to those front runners. A really nice bounce of the ball there, but early communication to just let him know that he was on his outside shoulder for that no-look pass. Such fantastic play from Oxford, and that's what I'd like to see more of from Cambridge. Ball in hand, having a go.
Well, let's stop to appreciate that no-look pass from Henry Hackett. Two Cambridge players bearing down on him, a split second to think, and just floats it round his left shoulder to Bertie Watson on the same wavelength.
Yeah, he must have given him some really early comms then to let him know he was coming round on his outside. Really good scanning from him, knowing that there was not very much cover on that far blind side from Cambridge, but just really, really good from him to trust his instinct that his player will be there to pick up that pass. A really difficult skill made to look quite easy there.
Well, Piers van Dadelsen, the man receiving attention for Oxford.
Just line out, just waiting for him.
Gives us a pause in play. And while Oxford, no doubt, have been the dominant side today,
So your 20's going off,
12
apparently.
points.
Yeah, you're off.
It's not a lot
You'll be
in
so-
35 minutes.
No, and that first minute from Cambridge showed us that they've got the manpower, they've got the calibre,
What we're trying to do, apparently.
they've got the aspiration, they just need to have the possession to be able to do it, and I think that will come. I think they need to be in better sort of areas of the field so that they've got that platform to launch from. But it certainly seems like when they did have possession down on that right-hand side earlier, that they must have talked in half-time around looking after that ball, having a bit more possession, and they will reap the benefits from that as the game goes on.
Thank you.
Sorry, just clarify. Yeah. The front row replacement, Simon in the back row, he's to the front row.
We don't make the rules, it's on the paper, it's on the paper.
No, but they changed it after we agreed.
No, it was pre-agreed, mate.
It wasn't. Mate, it was very much agreed.
That's Let's get Robbie.
We're good, let's go, lads.
Let's not, because he's still down. But yeah, I admire the spirit.
Well, there's some discussion
Apparently it's all sorted. They're dealing with it on the sideline.
as to whether the right replacements have come on
No, it's not. It's a line-out.
in place of the right player positionally. I mentioned in the first half the gentleman's agreement that
There we go.
the front rows would indeed be front rows despite the absence of scrums. Hence Danny Collins and Matt Pettit,
Down this gap.
all cumulative 137 kilos of them, are in the light blue jersey, flanking Jamie Chowdhury, and John Aaron Henry and Ewan Friend are
Let's go then.
recognised props.
Come on, Nick. Thanks, mate.
But when Will Barker went off, he was replaced by Bertie Watson, who's a back row by trade. So, but people trying to get to the bottom of it on the touchline as we turn our attentions back to the action on the field instead of the replacement cards. Duratalo. Humberston, charge down, good pressure from Cambridge. Can they capitalise on the chaos?
Got the ball, haven't they?
Oxford come away with it. Go to the try scorer, Henry.
Tackle! Let him go down.
Very, very different
Use that,
complexion
Oxford.
in these contact areas, with teams not allowed to maul, not allowed to hold up the attacker. The try scorer after a minute, Gaitus, does well under the attentions of dark blue defenders. And this is better from Cambridge. Duratalo clamps down, but blasted off. So many numbers for Cambridge on this short side. For Vel to his South African inside centre. First time we've seen him ball in hand.
Come off the ball, you part of the tackle.
Penalty to Cambridge. Etienne Dusartre takes Cambridge into the Oxford half. A phrase that hasn't been on the tip of our tongues enough in this opening 50 minutes. Jamie Chowdhury, just like his opposite thrower, I won't say opposite number, John Aaron Henry, has found line-outs tough going this afternoon. But this is an important one. Miscommunication at the front, but they find Leonard and they launch to that big South African centre, Chibale. The pressure from Oxford forces a handling error, but Cambridge still in possession. Rowan Beckett is on. Leonard. Whew. Confrontational when he takes it into contact. Dusartre. Gaitus tries to burst through the gap, but well tackled by Jasper Dix. And that rain from earlier that we saw in the women's match, with just leaving enough glisten on the Welford Road turf to see Gaitus slide out just beyond the paint. And Oxford again with the throw-in.
Yeah, glimpses of what Cambridge can do and what they're capable of ball in hand. They'll be disappointed with that pretty basic error being put into touch there.
Well, it truly is a battleground in the skies, the line out. Very, very little clean ball for either side. But it's Oxford who come away with it. You and friends.
Thank you. Use that then, Oxford.
Must be into close to double figures on the carry front. Really tricky ball put into the melee of jerseys. Oxford initially claiming it before losing the ball forward. Just Callum Grant, I'm not sure if intended, but putting it into a squall of light blue and dark blue jerseys. The initial take was good, but displaced on his way down from the air.
Yeah, Louis Jackson, that's the second time he's got up and got that ball. He seems a really good kick chaser, and I think that's probably why they're putting that ball up for him.
Well, Fergus Gemfrey of Homerton doing enough to be a distraction and force a knock on. Gaitus. He's a marked man after his introduction in the first minute. George Mesham dislodging. And Grant finding friend. He's been an assured presence at the base all game, Grant. A high tackle from Cambridge this time. And another penalty to Oxford.
Yeah, that's going to hurt Cambridge again in terms of the penalty count. Oxford will likely benefit from the territory they'll get from this penalty.
For them, it would have been.
But again, they just seem unable to look after that ball. That last pass just not going to hand.
See the tackle from Messam coming across. Excellent work rate, excellent industry from the entirety of the Oxford back row today. Sam Miller on the turnovers.
Okay, water off then, guys, please.
I've almost worn the microphone out saying Duratalo's name this afternoon, but Messam becoming increasingly prevalent.
We're good. Come on, hard tackle.
Got an interesting Blues background, Messam, having won his first in 2014. Before his second in the last edition in 2019. He makes it a hat-trick today.
5 metre line's yours, lads. On the 5.
And that experience, that energy,
No, sorry,
he's played a lot in the national leagues in England.
How many?
He's just beginning to tell as we enter the final 30 minutes of the 2021 varsity match. A slow swagger of a walk to the line out. Messam wins it, but Abembe, who's brought good energy to the Cambridge side today, is first to react before the counter from Oxford. They're charging through, they're barreling through. They're not over yet.
19.
But Cambridge are circling the wagons as Oxford launch another dark blue assault. They are inches away, playing with penalty advantage, and they're over. Callum Grant, the man who's made this dark blue team tick all afternoon. He's the one who got mobbed.
Saves us a bit of paper, isn't it?
But our cameras are focusing here on Ewan Friend. We'll take another look.
On the try, yeah? Yeah, man.
It was the way that Oxford initially rode that challenge before Callum Grant sniping, nuggeting his way over. And look how important that try is and how popular a scorer he is. Is that the score that takes this game unequivocally away from Cambridge?
Well, I think it's definitely made it harder for them. I think it's only going to have increased Oxford's confidence and that ascendancy that comes with that burst of adrenaline when you know you've got the ascendancy and you know that you've got the opposition on the ropes, and they have. Be interesting to see where Cambridge go with this kickoff, whether they go short to try and regather possession or whether they go long and for the first time kind of really put Oxford under pressure to play out from their own 22.
Off, Nick. Just doing some subs apparently. Wait, please.
A mountain to climb for the Light Blues at the Mattioli Woods, Welford Road, 26 points to 7.
Yeah, no,
Oxford leading as the reinforcements come pouring on. Dusatra finds Jasper Dix, who's hoisted highest, the try scorer Callum Grant. Back doing what he's done all afternoon, using the options that have been laid on for him by willing runners and accomplices in attack for the Dark Blues. Joey Gaitus tackled so well by Drew Humberstone. Dusatra trying to find a way to unlock this dark blue defence. Tackle off the ball from Duratalo on the Cambridge replacement scrum half, James Elms.
7 took the man off the ball.
Another Sarries under-18 man coming on for debut, risen through the ranks, under-20s, played for the 60s. And now he's a full blue. But he's got some task on his hands if Cambridge are to come back.
Right, postcode.
They really need to come away with points from this visit to the 22. This will be key to them having the motivation to believe in themselves that they've still got the time to pull this game back.
Well, don't the rugby gods have a dark sense of humour? In a nod to the usual December date of this historic fixture, they've delivered some December wedding. The sky's open, great gouts of rain pouring down at Welford Road now. And great gouts of pressure beginning to pour from the Light Blues on Oxford. This try would make things interesting. It's offside advantage for Cambridge as they dart from short range, and they're over. Is there a sting in the tail of this varsity match yet? Cambridge back in contention.
Really good to see them coming away with points. They needed that. Their body language has changed immediately.
Okay, mate, I've got nothing.
Okay, so the player
They need to regather this kickoff when they receive it
20
Yep.
from dark blue.
Yeah.
20
and
eventually
really think
kicked
about
out
how they can work
with
back
clear
into those
contact with the
positions
head.
Okay, so
again.
we're talking yellow card for him, red card for him.
Yellow card and red card, both 20s.
So the try is cancelled, therefore, because that foul play has come before it. So we're going to go for a restart penalty to Cambridge because the more serious foul play trumps it, but we can't have a try.
Agreed.
Okay. Skip. Skip. Yeah, thanks, mate.
Wow.
I'm off there, yeah?
You've heard right there from referee Andrew Jackson. This try is going to be chalked off.
So let me tell you what's going to happen with both 20s involved. Your 20 started it with a prolonged hold onto the leg of the player. So he goes to the bin for that and the try doesn't count. Your 20 is then eventually kicked out of it and kicked him in the head. So no option, so he gets sent off for that. So the restart is a penalty to Cambridge because your foul play is more serious. So it's a yellow card for your 20, a red card for your 20.
Restart for me,
Just go to that. So both 20s, please.
Have we got time off to chat?
Yeah, of course you have. 20.
Well, how about
So you
this
started that with the prolonged hold, so you go to the bin. Off you go.
for development in this varsity match?
Of course, the action. You kicked him in the head. Off you go.
Hamish Watson, Bertie Watson, I beg your pardon, who's brought so much good energy since coming on as a replacement, sees red for a stamp in the head. You rarely see red in a varsity match, the first in 2013, famously to the dark blue of Oxford again. And they've seen red on another occasion. Bertie Watson, after having his leg held onto for a prolonged period by Matt West, who's been sin-binned as a result, lashing out. And Oxford will see out this varsity match with 14 men.
Arrive up.
Their try not standing, so the score 26-12.
Get your hands up.
But within range to strike again. Dusatra feints inside. Composure required from Cambridge here. They have an extra man to play with.
Fine, good counter.
But this is all heart from Oxford now, defending for their dear lives on the try line. Cambridge driven back. Dusatra smashed in the tackle. And knocked on from the swinging arm coming round. How about that, Stash? We've got a huge 23 minutes remaining.
Yeah, I think Cambridge will feel like they've got some benefit from having that red card, but equally it's just angered Oxford, it seems.
That's it. Take a step.
Cambridge looking to bludgeon their way forward, but they've been driven back a full 6, maybe 7 meters from their initial launch point.
It's just really odd from Cambridge that they've got backs going into those forward pick and goes when they're still 10 meters from the line. What that means is there's just no options when that ball does come out. And the Cambridge 10's just being shut down every time from the relentless pressure from the Oxford defenders. And yeah, it just does seem a bit strange that they're making it very obvious what's going to happen next, because there is no alternative. They've got backs going into those pick and drives.
Well, this is lovely.
Well, here's the big moment and the talking point of the red cards. We look for the 20s on each side, and well, there you can see exactly why the linesman, or the assistant referee rather's flag came out. Matt West being a pest, but Bertie Watson lashing out with his foot at the head of his opposite number.
Fellas, that's
a sad way
little bit more. Yeah,
to end
come on.
what is a prestigious afternoon for many, in fact, all of these young men out there today. And it's just left the door called comeback ajar for Cambridge. Gaitus returns a missed touch. Dusatra wondering what to do. He opens things up to Parry, whose try was chalked off as a result of the foul play.
Now you're off your feet.
For a moment,
no.
Cambridge had 12, but they're back to 7
Counter's good, mate.
after the flurry of cards. But there is more swagger to the attack, and they're finding space. They're using their feet. Loveridge, the first-year undergrad, adding some danger into the back line. Dusatra beginning to purr a little. Danny Collins brought in on a big carry. Elms chooses to go on his own.
Use it.
Forces Leonard to do the nitty-gritty stuff.
that,
Elms back in at scrum half.
Let's go, lads, come on.
Again, Cambridge choosing to go round the corner with the forward power play before Elms fumbles with a Jenga of feet at his hands. He'll be kicking himself.
He will. I think a number of them will. Oxford will be thanking their lucky stars that Cambridge just seem to be making it easy for them. Don't forget, Oxford playing the rest of this game with just 14 men. And although it's even for now, Cambridge will be back up to a full complement in just over 5 minutes' time. And Oxford will feel very lucky if they can come out of this period having not conceded points, particularly having absorbed the first real pressure.
Water off then, guys, thanks.
Well, we're looking again right here. And it was that last one, wasn't it? Red card for you, Stash?
I think any contact with the head, I mean, you're taking a risk, aren't you? I don't think it was malicious. I don't think there was any intention to kick him in the head. However, you just can't run that risk. The referees are left with no option, and players know that.
Well, for the first time in a long time, we find players bruising the blades of grass in the Cambridge half. Humberstone finding a big boot into the counter-attacking hands of Joey Gaitus. Very awkward kick for Marriott Clark to deal with, and deal with it he does. Serenely, in fact, calling for the mark.
Really clever decision from him, because he literally, if his toenails had been much longer, he would have been in touch as he called that mark. So really good decision from him, because otherwise he would have carried that out and it would have been a Cambridge line-out.
Real wherewithal to know precisely where he was in his 22.
Easy up, let him up.
We're once again encountering a fractious period of the game, and Callum Grant finds an excellent touch up to the halfway line. And Oxford will get an opportunity to put pressure on the Cambridge line-out, just as Cambridge have been doing on Oxford all day.
Yeah, I watched him practicing those kicks in the warm-up, and they were a really deliberate skill that he was doing, different from a normal box kick where you look to get the ball high, go about 20 to 25 metres beyond where you're kicking from. This was a real low trajectory aimed to try and get that ball to skid along the ground and go into touch.
5. Stay 2, mate, stay 2.
Well, an arsenal of attacking threats amassed from Cambridge in the midfield. A pump on the first ball from scrum half. So well read by Nick Greenall. What a defensive rock he's been in the dark blue today. It was on for Cambridge, but the experienced outside centre sniffing out and snuffing out the danger as Rowan Beckett carries heavily. There are numbers for the light blues. Ball doesn't go to hand. Hennessy ships it on one more. Elms Dishes an awkward one up to Walton. But Cambridge is still on the go. Gaitus finds Gemfrey, who is picked down. And it forces the knock-on. Huge defensive hit and a big moment with Cambridge beginning to move through the gears.
Yeah, the pressure is just still absolutely relentless in defence from Oxford. No real opportunity to win the ball there, but just sheer dogged determination from them, just making life difficult at the ruck, making Cambridge have to work extra hard to even retain their own ball.
Just over 17 minutes remaining. 19 points the deficit. Cambridge need a try. They need something. Oxford revert back to a tactic we saw twice in the first half of putting the bomb to create panic in the Cambridge backfield ranks before Duratalo drops an exquisite chip over the top into the backfield, and we get the ping pong going with the boots. Collision between two Cambridge players with Gaitus on rushing, sees Oxford come away with it in the hands of their captain Messam. Can they shift it quick enough? Can they? Yes, they can. Jackson, well managed with the touchline on his right. Friend, goodness me. He's going to need some Epsom salts in his bath by the time this game's done. A carrying powerhouse, always putting his hand up. Here's his prop partner, Henry. Grant, posing questions, not held in the tackle. A slippery offload is gathered up and Oxford still have it. Humberstone. Good play from Tom Walton.
Really key intervention there from Cambridge, because that was an Oxford attack that was really building in momentum. They'll be pleased that they get a little bit of time off now, bit of rest to regather.
A timely intervention from Tom Walton. It's one thing that could you argue, if they put enough pressure on Callum Grant. We saw in the first quarter of the game, Charles Favell really was made to feel uncomfortable. Box kicking, passing, made it a rough ride, whereas Callum Grant seems to have taken everything on his own terms this afternoon.
And I think that's mainly been down to the work of his teammates who've just supported the ball carrier so quickly, and he's effectively had a ball clean on a plate for him every time he's got to a ruck. If he's wanted to, he would have been able to just get hands straight on that ball and pass it away. I feel Oxford have had the much faster recycling of the ball at each contact area because of how quickly and cleanly and effectively they've been able to secure their own ball. I feel that's what was lacking for Cambridge, partly that Oxford are making it so hard for them to retain their own ball, but also they just didn't have those runners giving them options in order to be able to go quickly. I think that's been the key difference for me between the two teams.
Marriott Clark, another replacement who's made his mark on this varsity match for the Dark Blues. Duratalo, after a period of, well, we won't say inactivity, but less activity than he brought in the opening 50 minutes, back into the fray. Grant to Humberstone, the axis working in sweet harmony as Marriott Clark comes in off his blindside wing. Messam.
Don't go there now, thanks.
Friend does as he's done all game, puts his head down, pumps the legs, but he's ripped in the tackle.
So you've ripped it forward and he's offside.
So unlucky. So unlucky. That was great defence from Cambridge, and his teammate in an offside position. They just can't get a break.
It's such a great piece of skill. Really clever in this game where you can't set up a maul, you can't take that ball into contact and set it up. so often the ball carrier is just waiting for the referee to shout tackle, and often if they've not looked after that ball well enough or they've not worked hard enough to protect it, that ball's there up for a picking, really.
Well, scoreboard management at the top of the agenda.
Just time off for that, Nick. Thanks, mate.
With Oxford knowing that this penalty attempt from Drew Humberstone, should it sail over the crossbar, would open up a 22-point lead and thus take them more than 3 scores away from Cambridge. We saw him find the distance in the first half, just not the accuracy, cannoning off the right upright. But this time, he's bang on target. A huge kick and a huge moment in the context of this 139th varsity match. Drew Humberstone gets himself on the board to add to his brother Tom's personal points haul. And Oxford now lead by 22 points. 12 and a half minutes to go.
Let him up.
The task of getting themselves back into this varsity match has just got that bit taller for Cambridge. A charge down will help. But Oxford so composed, even in the face of adversity.
Use that 9.
Even just going through that extra phase in order to then be able to kick it, being inside the 22, shows good composure.
There we see the grease on the turf once again as Gatiss slips up onto his backside, much to the delight of the crowd. Cambridge continuing to hunt for points, continuing to search for the opening to get them back into this game. The nearly try scorer, Luke Parry, coming into the equation. Cambridge back to their full complement now with the sin bin having been served. But they could have 20 men on the field. There's nothing they can do about a kick like that. Raking end over end. Getting the roll. Bouncing in undefended territory. And putting Cambridge back on the back foot. It has been relentless from Oxford today.
Yeah, that's the only word for it, relentless. That kick in itself, not only was it well executed, but it was just a good decision, knowing how soul-destroying it will be for Cambridge to be back, defending their try line, back in their 22, and the effort and mental fitness it requires to get out of that situation.
And you just see Callum Grant there, gesturing to everyone around him, slow down, calm down, we've got this. And it is that composure, that igloo ice blood that seems to be coursing through players in key positions around the field for Oxford that is, decision by decision, eking this victory out. Callum Grant at 9, Duratalo at 7, Messam at 8. Humberstone's been assured at fly half. They've never looked flustered.
Use that 9.
Oxford happy to play the unglamorous, the unsexy rugby, pick and going round the corner.
Take a step, take a step. Yeah, mate.
Slip sliding backwards on the greasy turf.
Now, yeah.
Just draining the energy, draining the morale of their fierce Cambridge rivals, pick by pick.
Use it!
the back line holding their width. Jackson on the right, but they've been turned over. Abembe, who really has not stopped for Cambridge. He has matched a dominant forward performance from Oxford. It's Cambridge. Look for a bit of magic off the boot, but as has been the way this afternoon, the bounce of the ball not going their way.
No, sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and it appears that every borderline decision, every bounce of the ball has gone Oxford's way, and Cambridge will be demoralised by that. However, they did so well to not only keep their discipline in their 22 just then, but also to orchestrate that turnover. And effectively, they've cleared their lines. They're out of immediate danger. They're almost up to the 10-metre line, and they'll be happy with that in this context, because they were under the pump then for a good few minutes, and they'll be really pleased now. We're back to 15 against 14. I'd love to see Cambridge now really stretching their legs. They've got nothing to lose at this stage.
Let's get going then, Oxford.
Give it your all. Try something a bit different. Really have to really make Oxford work for this possession and territory.
Yeah, come on.
Well, here we go. The man we spoke of only moments ago, Abembe, fly hacking through, but the touchline once again the winner in that race.
He's been outstanding all game for me. His work rate, he just does all this unseen work, and he's won so many turnovers, and showed just then as he was chasing that ball, he's got some serious pace as well.
Not a bad debut from the young 21-year-old. Bit of an unknown quantity. Formerly of London Irish Academy, educated at St George's, Weybridge, where, of course, the Watson brothers emerged from. Anthony down in South Africa,
Shift the tacklers first.
set to win more Lions caps.
Yep.
But he's really been a standout player for the Light Blues, and
Put him down now.
a prospect as he battles and squirms and fights to take Cambridge beyond the 22 threshold. Can they get a try? They haven't had one for 71 minutes. They thought they had one, but foul play chalked it off. 15 minutes ago. They keep going. Hennessy onto the toe, but it's too much. He was playing with advantage.
And it was the right thing to do. It was the right option, just not executed as he would have wanted to. Went back behind where he'd started. There was space in behind, and only one defender marking the whole of the 15-metre channel. Bit of a better execution, and that could have been a try.
Do you think that execution has been one of the key differences today between these two teams?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't underestimate what affects execution. So anything that puts you under pressure, whether that's time, space, the scoreline, the weather, whatever that might be, I just feel Oxford have dealt with that pressure better. I think they've created pressure for Cambridge, which maybe Cambridge haven't kind of put so much on them. But we talked earlier about Grant just calming things down, and I don't think he's just been doing it because they're so far ahead on the scoreboard. I think he's been doing it all game, and I think as a collective group they've just come out there with a real trust in their process and a trust in what they want to achieve. They don't seem to have focused on Cambridge. They focus solely on what they want to do, and I would imagine if we spoke to the coaches afterwards, they would say they pretty much stuck to their game plan, and it's worked for them.
Well, the man you speak of is departing the field to warm, appreciative applause from the Oxford bench. It heralds the arrival of Rory Tegner. He's played for the Whippets, he's played for the Greyhounds, and now he has a full blue. The journey is complete. He'll orchestrate the final 5 minutes for the Dark Blues. At scrum half, and Henry Hackett is going to finish this varsity match with a dark blue flourish.
That's so well deserved. He's been outstanding all game.
Wow. He didn't know he'd be playing so many minutes. It came through the unfortunate departure of Rob Quinlan, but a try in the first half, a try in the second, and it is now beyond doubt. Oxford University will be the 2021 Varsity Match winners.
It comes back to what we were saying earlier around those options and what you're telling the defence. If you've got only 2 or 3 people to pass to and they're all standing flat and level, it's so easy for the defence to just read that pass and come up. You've got to have more depth and more options in attack. You've got to have more variation so that the defence are not able to read it as easily, and that was just on a plate, but such an important and difficult skill to execute well, not to knock it on, and then to have the pace to finish with. It's a really well-deserved try for a young man who's had an outstanding debut today.
He is going to enjoy himself. In the celebrations today is Henry Hackett. In fact, all 23 of the Oxford University rugby team selected winning blues today, including Barnaby Vaughan, who wins his second, who's just come on to the field. The bench is being emptied. Just minutes remaining. Oxford will want to shut out Cambridge for the remainder of this match. Their only points coming in the first 60 seconds. But ever since then, 34 points without reply from the Dark Blues. It has been a consummate varsity performance.
No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
George Mesham will have one thought just about on how that trophy is going to feel in his hands when it comes to hoisting it in not too long. Look, Stash, I'm going to press you for a man of the match. They'll award one here in the stand, but from a pretty strong cast of individuals, who are you going with?
Well, there have been some standout performances for me. I've really liked the work rate of Ewan Friend. I think he's been outstanding. I think Andrew Duratalo has been incredible in terms of his ball carrying and his work rate. But for me, I think the person who's just stayed calm, worked with his 9 partnership in Callum Grant so well, for me, Tom Humberston has been outstanding in his composure and how well he's orchestrated his team around him. He's done exactly what you want from a half-back. Thank you very much. He's really linked his forwards and backs well. And I think his skill execution and his kicking game have been outstanding today. So my man of the match is Tom Humberston.
So Tom Humberston, 20 points in the victory in 2018. Not a point to show in Cambridge's 15-0 win in 2019, but a player of the match here in the inaugural match at Welford Road, as poor old Matt Dennis Soto is given his marching orders. Well, he's still on the field, unless someone else has been yellow carded.
Yeah, it's the bin down there, mate. Don't worry. Okay. Yeah, please.
I was lucky enough to spend some time talking to George Mesham in the week, and he was telling me all about what the Oxford team have done as a group and as a collective during lockdown, and the care that they've shown for each other, the way that they've stayed connected when they've not physically been able to be with each other. And I think it's just reward for the performance that they've put in on the pitch today.
Can Cambridge go home with something to sing about? They won't with errant passing like that, but with Joey Gatiss on the ball and backdooring it to his support, we could see a flying finish. But Andrew Jackson spots a knock on. And despite the willing cheers and encouragement of every Cambridge player and fan here at Welford Road, James Elms's dart won't stand as the man of the match, Tom Humberstone, belts the ball long and high into the Welford Road stands. He belts it emphatically, but not as emphatically as this Oxford victory. 34 points to 7. Oxford University are the Varsity Match winners 2021.
What a game of rugby. Absolutely outstanding. As neutral spectators, it had a bit of everything. It had a bit of drama. We had the tension and the excitement, and we had some outstanding tries as well. So many names to pick from who just put so much work and effort into that. And even at the end there, we talk a lot about doing the extras, and to have made 2 try-saving tackles, one on Jake Hennessy by Tom Humberston, and one over on the far side, again, by the replacement winger who's played almost the whole game, Henry Hackett. I think it was absolutely outstanding that right up until the very last whistle, they were not willing to let anybody break through their defensive line.
Henry Hackett's efforts, his interception at the end, very much putting the exclamation mark upon a handsome Oxford University performance. They have exacted revenge on their old foes from 2019. Scenes of jubilation for those of a dark blue persuasion. They'll remember this long into their old age. They'll talk about this to their peers. They'll talk about it to anyone who'll listen. It's a special thing to get a blue. It's an even more cherished thing to get a win. Universities, the players, the coaches, the support staff are defined. George Messam, the official captain, but clearly Andrew Duratalo receiving an accolade, no doubt the player of the match. As chosen by a committee put together by the Varsity Matches committee. He'll take his player of the match accolade alongside Anna Park of Cambridge, who wore the number 8 jersey and kicked the crucial points to hand the women the Varsity Match victory. Just out of shots to the left-hand side as we look at Messam and Duratalo, getting pictures that are destined for a mantelpiece. Their team are assembled. The trophy was only just put back together. Stevie Leonard of Cambridge admitting that he'd lost all the pieces. And in the year that the Varsity Match is on the Sunday for the first time, tomorrow will be a Blue Monday, a dark blue Monday, because Oxford are the Varsity Match winners 2021.
It's been an absolute pleasure, hasn't it, to watch these guys, and a thoroughly deserved victory for them. I'm sure those celebrations will continue long after this pitchside celebration. But delighted for all of the players, their coaches and the management, for whom I know that this year has been such an unusual one. And they just spoke before the game about being desperate to pull on the navy blue shirt again and get back to some competitive rugby, which I know we all feel the same about, certainly at grassroots level. So to get to watch rugby of this calibre on such a stage today has just been an absolute honour.
The 61st Oxford victory in this historic match like no other. The first time it's ever been held at the Mattioli Woods, Welford Road. The first time in 100 years it hasn't been held at Twickenham. Quite extraordinary. This is meant to be a one-off, and we're going to see some changes to the Varsity Match in years to come, because you can cross out your regular December fixture in your calendar, because the 2nd of April 2022 is when the next Varsity Match is due to take place. It will return to Twickenham, but in a shake-up, in an effort to refresh this renowned, this esteemed clash between Oxford and Cambridge. It'll be on a Saturday in April, hopefully with slightly better weather than we've endured in July. 4 seasons in one day up here in Leicester. But it will change the dynamic of the Varsity Match for years to come. With it being a weekend, potentially draw in a fresh audience for a match that certainly is not short on commitment. 46 men out there today giving it their all, not just for them, not just for their club, but for their university. Their names immortalised.
I asked George in the week what it would mean to win today, and he talked about it being a reward for the amount of sacrifice that they've made over the past 10 and 11 weeks, where they've not gone out, they've not gone to family events, so that they didn't risk any breach to the COVID protocols, and just how it would be a reward for how much hard work and effort each individual player has put in to being ready for this match and working during lockdown when they've not been in their normal training environment. And I know the same can be said for all teams who are playing now, but he certainly spoke about that being something that would be fantastic and a nice way to end any player's time who are finishing and graduating from Oxford University. So hopefully they feel all those emotions, and it's everything that they were expecting it to live up to.
Well, in nearly 150 years, we've seen 139 varsity matches. The only times when the varsity match didn't take place was during the Great War and World War II, only on 11 occasions. And while a great pandemic has swept across the globe and the nation, these two institutions have refused to bow. More sidestepped and matadored COVID to one side until July, and as a result we've been treated to a feast of university rugby, and one that will live long in the memory of the dark blue fans and Oxford University. Commiserations to Cambridge. Stash, my thanks to you. What an enjoyable afternoon we've had.
as always, really love watching these games, love commentating alongside you. Thank you for those opportunities. And yeah, I hope the fans and spectators and everybody watching has enjoyed it as much as we have.
A night of long celebrations ahead for Cambridge University and Oxford University. The Cambridge University women are the varsity winners, having defeated Oxford 10-5 earlier in the afternoon. But it is Oxford who take men's glory, an emphatic, a handsome 34-7 victory over their arch rivals, Cambridge University. Thank you for joining us this year, and we look forward to seeing you at the 140th back at HQ next year.